Thank you, Alaska Hirlock. Before I begin, on behalf of the Labour Party, I do want to extend our sympathies to the family of Aisling Murphy and her boyfriend Ryan, her family, her community, colleagues, friends, her pupils, her work colleagues. Think of them a lot as well, in fairness. It's a terrible tragedy that has deeply touched us all across the country, and it demands a serious response from all of us in here, collectively. And I welcome the question and answer set just beforehand. I agree totally. You know, the word watershed is often used in here for many different things. Sometimes misplaced, sometimes not followed up on. We're all guilty of it. But this has to be a watershed moment when it comes to violence against women. Simply has to. And collectively, we're all leaders. Everyone elected here is a leader. And we must address violence against women in this country, which has ended so many lives. I was very taken by a piece in Primetime last night, which went back 60 years. So many reminders you'd forget. It was shocking. And I also, you know, whatever we all collectively have to do, we must do. And the new Special Committee on Gender Equality that my colleague here, Ivana Bacik, will be chairing, will also have a very important role collectively for us all in here to deal with domestic, sexual and gender-based violence in Ireland. Taoiseach, I do want to ask you another question. It relates to the Leave Insert. And I ask this in a very honest way because we in the Labour Party have been asking this question. Aodhán Reardon has been asking it since July as our spokesperson. Thousands of students out there are waiting for an answer from your government as to whether the Leave Insert will go ahead as normal this year or a hybrid Leave Insert, which is what we have been proposing since July. They need an answer. We absolutely believe in a hybrid Leave Insert. They have gone through such a difficult 2 years. They've lost so much time. This is the best efforts of teachers, schools, etc. But we have a petition where 10,000 majoritarily students have signed. There are students outside today. We know 2/3 of the Students' Union secondary representatives who were surveyed favoured this as well. I accept it can't be a carbon copy of what happened last year. I accept there are additional difficulties. But it is absolutely necessary. The stress that these students are under now at the moment is huge. I've spoken to many of them across the country and in my own constituency. And really, with orals, mocks, everything coming up, and practicals, we need a quick decision. And I'm imploring on you that for this year, and hopefully we're coming into a different phase of the pandemic, and hopefully we're moving out of it potentially, we don't know, it's always full of surprises. But for this year, I have to commend the Minister for Education. Last year she got the decision right. The year before she got the decision right. So this year, Taoiseach, I would also ask, on behalf of all of these students who deserve a fair chance, like others, that this year it is a hybrid Leave Insert as well.
I thank the Deputy for the question and his earlier remarks, which again we'll work together in respect of, in terms of the issue of gender-based violence and violence against women. In relation to the Leaving Certificate, we fully accept the challenges and the fact that this year has been disrupted in terms of the education and learning experience for many students. All of the planning for the 2022 examinations were guided by the prevailing public health advice and above all with regard to the well-being of students. Now, already significant adjustments have been made to this year's Leaving Certificate to allow for that disruption that has been experienced by students. Adjustments to the assessment arrangements for the 2022 Leaving Certificate examinations were announced in August of last year, and they were designed to take account both of the disruption to learning experienced by students in the early part of 2021, as well as providing for some possible further disruption in 21-22. And they allow for greater choice for students while retaining the familiar overall structure of the exam. The Department of Education, the State Examination Commission have sought to make as much information as possible available to students in terms of the examinations as early as possible. That's why the adjustments were communicated in the summer of last year. And last month it was announced that the oral and practical examinations will take place outside of school time over the first week of the school Easter holidays, and that the Exam Commission aims to minimise disruption to teaching and learning by taking that initiative. So these were all preemptive moves that were taken, conscious of disruption that had already happened. Now, the Minister and the Department continue to engage with the partners and the stakeholders. A meeting of the advisory group on state examinations, which involves all of the students, the unions, the patrons, that's taking place tomorrow. So that's an important forum for the Minister and indeed for all the stakeholders involved, the students, the parents, the teachers, the school leaders, as well as the Exam Commission, the NCCA and higher education. Now, I take you've made an important point there when you said it can't be a carbon copy of last year. So there are challenges with the hybrid model in year 3. And we'll all be aware that the last 2 years, the Minister for Higher Education, Simon Harris, in engagement with the third level sector, managed to squeeze a lot of extra places, 2 years in succession. The capacity of the third level sector to provide that equivalent amount of places this year may not be as high, to put it charitably. So that creates an additional challenge. We know hybrid models can create great inflation. So there are challenges with the hybrid model that I need to put out there. They have to be assessed. And the Minister and the Department will be engaging with all of the representative groupings in that advisory group tomorrow and I accept the need for clarity, Deputy, as quickly as possible.
I'm not saying this is easy, but it has to happen. I rarely ever come in here and say something like that. The mental health of the students is paramount. I know there are issues in relation to third level. By the way, those students who have gone into third level this year and last year have actually performed quite well after what they've had to go through, which is great. However, this year's students lost 3 months in fifth year. They've suffered an awful lot again this year. It is not fair, and fairness should be the medium by which we decide this. Like, I think the Leaving Cert and the whole role of the Leaving Cert is going to change dramatically in the coming years. I think we all know that. But this year, possibly and hopefully the last year, it has to be a hybrid system. I know there are challenges given this situation with the junior cert, but there are ways in which that can be dealt with. There are definitely ways in which that can be dealt with. So I understand the group that's coming together tomorrow. So as a follow-up, Taoiseach, if you're not going to answer on the floor today whether a hybrid is going to be offered, will you please, at least for the thousands of people who are watching this and going to look back on this on social media, all the students, will you at least propose some date that a decision will be made by? Will it be next week, for instance?
Thank you, Deputy. Taoiseach, to conclude.
First of all, I don't want to preempt the outcome of tomorrow's meeting or any further engagements between the Minister and the respective partners in education. I do understand, however, the need for clarity for the students and certainty for the students in terms of understandable worry, anxiety and stress levels. That's absolutely clear. And the Minister is also clear on that front. And I'm not in a position to give you a date or a timeline in terms of this particular process being brought to a conclusion, but to accept our sincerity in understanding the need for certainty and clarity as soon and as quickly as we possibly can. We don't want to compound the situation for students either. And with the qualifications framework, there are pathways for students from further education, for apprenticeships, right through to third level education. There is a danger 3 years in a row and not perhaps having the same capacity as we have managed to extract from third level in the last 2 years, that we could create other issues as well that can cause stress and anxiety to students. So all of that has to go into the mix in terms of assessment. And I think it's just fair to point that out also, that these are real issues now facing students.